Hey, all. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I did promise you that this week you were going to get a few extra doses of the Doug Pagitt podcast. Fulfilling that promise, still another one coming. But here I did a conversation with two guys, one named Justin, one Patrick. They are part of a documentary about their trip on the Camino. What makes this significant is that Justin travels in a wheelchair, and Patrick pushed him the 500 miles on the Camino. They wrote a book about it. They made a documentary. The documentary is going to be shown around the country on about 500 theater screens on Thursday, November 2nd. So if you're in any of the states where they offer this film at your local theaters as part of one of those Fathom events, it's really worth seeing. Go give it a viewing. I happened to see a pre-release of the film last November, December, and it's worth watching. It's a real story of faith and friendship and life, and if you're at all interested in the Camino, for me at least, totally caused me to want to walk the Camino even more than I did before. So here it is, my conversation with Justin and Patrick on their big media tour. They told me at the end of the conversation, which we didn't record, that this was their 27th interview of the day. So their energy was really good, and it was great to chat with them. So here it is, Justin and Patrick, and the movie and the book is called I'll Push You, as in I will push you. I don't know why I can't say the word I'll push you. There it is. Hey, and if you want to push this podcast, if you like it, you want more of it, head over to my website, DougPagitt.com, click on the Patreon link, chip in $1, $5, $10 a month. There's some rewards, incentives for you to do that. The real incentive is I'd like to keep doing these podcasts, and I'd like to include it in my income stream. So, become part of the flow. Enjoy. Thanks. Hey, congratulations! Congratulations on the on this whole project. I mean, it's been a long time coming for you, hasn't it?
It has been. It's been a long
journey.
Yeah,
very, very long journey.
All right. So for people who don't know, this is Justin and Patrick, and they've produced a documentary, the documentary is not the most interesting part of this whole thing, really, is it? You produced a documentary where that tells the story of the two of you on the El Camino, which is a 500-mile walking pilgrimage. And, you guys tell the story. I won't tell all of it. Tell us what you did that made your journey something unique to what other people have experienced on the El Camino.
Well, I guess I could start off with that. So I'm Justin, and this is Pat. And Patrick and I have known each other. I'll get to the hook in a minute, but Patrick and I have known each other for 42 years. We just passed the 42-year mark. We were born 36 hours apart, same hospital, same small town. Our moms knew each other, or even our grandparents knew each other in some aspects. But anyway, I actually live with a very rare progressive neuromuscular disease. It's very similar to ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, and I'm in a wheelchair. I'm in a power wheelchair, and I'm at the point in my disease progression where I'm dependent upon others for pretty much every aspect of life. I have to be helped in the bathroom, getting my clothes put on every day, fed, everything. And so to do this pilgrimage is one thing to do it on foot, but it's another to do it via wheelchair.
Yeah.
So, that's the challenge that we're up against when we first started this whole thing.
And the documentary is called I'll Push You. And I've seen the film, and this bit is also in the trailer, that there's a point at which this idea comes up that you guys are going to do this journey. And Pat, you say, I'll push you at some moment, mm-hmm. that you would do that. Can you talk a little bit about that motivation? That was back in 2012, is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. So back in 2012, what were you thinking about?
That moment is one that we can point back to. Basically, our entire life right now kind of points back to that singular moment in time. It's kind of weird to be able to look back on something that, in my mind, was so simple at the time, but has had such profound implications. But I didn't really have a thought process that I went through. Justin asked me the question, and I just responded, "I'll push you."
Wow.
And in hindsight, I look back, that decision was made so quickly because of the relationship we possess, because of the dynamics at play where we just make each other's adventures and ideas and joys and pains our own. And then we just approach our friendship and life that way. So when he has an idea, like something's harebrained and crazy, but he's excited about it, why wouldn't I step in and want to be a part of that adventure and see if we can do it together? And so that's where the response came from. Now, was I naive to what was about to happen? Absolutely. I had no clue.
We were both naive.
Yeah. But I wouldn't go back and change it.
Well, having seen the film, one of the pieces I didn't know is why, and Justin, I guess it came from you, why there was interest in the El Camino pilgrimage in the first place. Why did that tempt you, or for you to say, I really want to go on that journey?
Yeah, when I learned about it, I referenced it very briefly at the very beginning of the film, where I was watching Rick Steves on PBS, and that's how I learned about the pilgrimage. But to take it a step further, and where you're getting at is where's the heart? Why would I do this? Or why would I want to do this? Knowing the situation that I'm in, the challenges that I live, not only on a day-to-day basis, but also invite my best friend into something where I know he's going to suffer.
Yeah.
Or I know that we're going to suffer. And to take it even further, not knowing exactly how many others are going to be suffering on my behalf because I want to do this thing. And, when I learned about this pilgrimage, when that episode unfolded in front of me, the best way I can describe it is that I just knew in my heart, in my soul, in my mind, my body, everything inside of me was screaming, saying, you need to go do this. You need to go do this. I've heard other pilgrims say that the Camino has called them.
Yeah.
In my case, it was the same. And, I'd like to, a step further would be, I felt God was calling me.
Yeah.
And it was more of a condition of the heart, why I needed to do it versus just looking at the logistics and going, oh, this is something I'm going to try it. No, it's something that I was going to do, and I was going to do it with my best friend, and we were just going to do it together. And we had no idea, absolutely no idea, from that moment when I learned about it to when Patrick said, I'll push you, to beyond that, how that all came about and how it was going to unfold, what was in front of us. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. And
I'm sure you've heard what I'm going to say to you from other people who've seen the film, which is I also have a plan to walk the El Camino. I actually want to run it someday. Hey. I'm a distance runner, and watching you guys in that film, at least how it was portrayed in the film, caused me to want to do it all that much more, right? There was something about the way this documentary is told with all of the pain and the heartache. It finished, and I was sitting next to one of my best friends, Michael, and I said, Michael, we're doing that. Like, we are going to do it. It was awfully inspiring. So for people who are going to go see the film, and part of the reason we're talking today is today's Thursday, and next Thursday, November 2nd, this film is available in theaters all around the country. And it feels to me like you're trying to roll it out. It's been in film festivals, and now you're trying to roll it out more widely. And I guess if it does well in this one-day showing around the country, then it will pick up for other theaters. Is that how the film industry works?
You want to talk about that?
It's kind of a unique situation we have. We're doing what's called a Fathom event, and they specialize in one-night events.
Yeah.
Now, your question, if it does really well in the theaters, we get a lot of people in seats. Yeah, it could definitely have encore performances in the following weeks. And but we're not looking at like a 3-week stint in theaters. No, it's a very limited access. People want to see it in the theaters. Their best bet is to go and see it on November 2nd, because we don't know if it'll be in theaters after that.
Great. Well, it's showing I'm in Minneapolis, and I looked it up today, and it's showing in a dozen theaters around here. So I hope people will go see it, and people all around the country. So from the point with Justin, when you say to Patrick, hey, let's do this, and there's something in you calling you, and then Patrick, you say, I'll push you, somewhere you decide, hey, you know what else we ought to do? We ought to bring a film crew with us, and we ought to make a documentary out of that, which anyone who's had to do any kind of filmmaking or document, no, that's an entire project in its own right. So now you've layered on top of it your particular conditions, this journey, and then you decide you want to make a documentary out of the thing. Can you say anything at all about why and what went into having a film crew with you along this journey?
Yeah,
Okay.
and to add insult to injury, you know, to pour lemonade juice on top of the wound, we wrote a book as well. So we've tackled a lot. Patrick can talk.
We're gluttons for punishment, apparently. So what's interesting is that the film was never in the cards. That was not something we had decided to do. And it wasn't our idea. We cannot take credit for that. So it's actually a pretty cool story where God puts people in your path for very specific reasons sometimes.
Yeah.
So 2013, I've been working for my boss at the time. His name is Ed Castledine, one of the most impactful individuals on my life that I've had the pleasure of knowing, just a mentor, someone who's just incredible. And I've been working with him for about 2 years at this point. And it's actually a springtime barbecue where we're trying to get away from the stresses of life. We have very, very stressful work environment in the hospital that I'm working in administration. So my entire team is all at the park with spouses and kids. And I take Ed aside thinking, gosh, you know what? Justin's got this idea. If this is going to happen, I got it. First step is getting time off, right? So I asked Ed, I said, hey, can I have 6 weeks off next summer? And he's not thrilled about the idea of 6 weeks off in a row because what boss would be.
Right.
But when I explained to him this scenario and what Justin's idea is to do the Camino, he got really excited. And his demeanor completely changed. And he said to me, he said, Patrick, I will do everything in my power to give you 6 weeks off. But you have to promise me you'll do everything in your power to document this on film.
Wow.
And I said, okay, may I ask why? And he said, because if you don't, you're selfish and you're irresponsible. There's too much hope not to share it.
Wow.
It's like, I thought that might be a little harsh.
Yeah.
But
He was right.
foresight, so much foresight. And that's where the idea came from. So we affectionately refer to Ed Castledine as the godfather of the documentary. Because without him, it wouldn't be one.
Yeah.
Did he help you find the people you need to find to do a documentary? Did he have some access to film people?
No, he just proceed. He got the easy deal.
An unfunded mandate.
Big idea.
Yeah.
No, but you know how the film came about was, or the filming piece is after Patrick told me, you know, his conversation with his boss, and I said, okay, and Pat's like, we need to do something about this, and I said, okay, so Terry Parrish, who's our co-director and producer on the film. We went to college together at Point Loma Nazarene University in San Diego.
Okay.
And we've known each other for a long time. And I approached him and said, hey, I know you do video stuff, but I have this idea for this journey, and I need help getting it filmed. And what do you guys think about it? And I met with him and his team and his business partner, Chris Karcher, and it just kind of outlaid the whole idea. And they were in. They were just like, okay, we see something here that could have some impact and some legs. It's on a story front. And so they said, okay, yeah, we're in. And, then we had this very grandiose idea of what, we wanted to do with this film. And, I won't get into that, but, it boiled down to, a point where we said, okay, we need a skeleton crew with us. We took 2 videographers. Terry went with us, our director, and Robin, who's a PA or a production assistant. And that was it. That was it. And they were just there to capture it, see how it all unfolded. And what you saw, what you've seen thus far has been the result of that work. So we could have used probably
at least 2 more videographers, if not a lot more. Yeah. But
the guys did a remarkable job capturing the film, and then Chris and Terry have, and team have been pouring themselves into this film and putting it together and getting to the true heart of what it is. So it's very accurate. The film that you have seen is very accurate to what we went through, and it's not glossed over. It's not just this this easy jaunt through Spain. No, it's hard. I mean, it's hard. It's got some hard topics that we talk about, got some hard things to watch, but yet there's some, some very stupid moments that we have in it as well.
Yeah, it's great.
So
it has the whole range. It really does. I mean, the emotional range, it was well edited. I feel like really, really well put together like that. So I want to ask you, here's the thing that stuck with me after watching the film. At the start of the film, it felt like, hey, Patrick's the one doing this brave, difficult thing, right? That's someone like me thinks that, right? Because you're going to like push someone, which in my mind, I'm thinking, man, it would be hard enough to walk the Camino or run it. It's even more difficult to think about having to push a person in a wheelchair. Then in the course of the film, frankly, I just started to see that, Justin, you were the brave one in this whole other way that, and you even say it, I think, at one point in the film, that it's really hard to make yourself that vulnerable and to have to be carried and cared for all that way. And so it started to shift for me where, Patrick, I'm not saying you didn't have to do a brave thing, but there's a whole other kind of bravery that was going on there. And then I have one more switch that happened to me that I want to ask you about, but you obviously felt like that was happening to the two of you, that there was this kind of needing to, this willingness to offer yourself as someone who would play that, who would be in that role, that you're the one being carried and pushed. And, that really took a lot of bravery, and it was really inspiring.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was not easy on both of our fronts. I mean, the first time I watched the film, I called Patrick and I was like, dude, you are insane. Because I'm in the chair being pushed in my affectionately described 3-wheeled baby jogger on steroids. That's basically what it is. But
yeah, it's more than just a wheelchair. People should know it's a significant apparatus.
But I'm in the chair and Patrick's behind me. Sometimes he's in front of me pulling as well because people are behind me pushing. But most of the time he's behind me, so I can't see. I can't see behind me what he's doing. And I remember watching that film the first time I saw it, going, man, what an incredibly difficult thing we both got ourselves into.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could have done it with anybody different. And he's pushed me in many, many ways, and I hope to be able to push him in many, many ways. So it's a very symbiotic relationship. It's not, you start the film watching it going, oh, it's a simple story of this best friend pushing his other friend.
Right.
But you don't realize there's a lot of pushing going on in all aspects.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the film, is that it really captures that very well.
Now, Patrick, I sense something in the film that in you in the course of it, and it's hard to know in a documentary, like what's the choice of the editors and others. It felt like there was a lot of burden for you to have to complete this, that there was this, at some point it became its own kind of pressure, and not just the Camino, but you had endeavored to do this. There were some scenes I remember where it just felt to me like, boy, you were really showing that side where failure didn't seem to be an option. And it didn't feel like that was a good thing for you. It felt like that was a lot of anguish, and that maybe you were working out other things in your own life. And like, how do you be the kind of person that can be strong but not so driven? And so I wonder, because I think at the end of the film there were some bits about your, back with your family and everything. You obviously were experiencing something in the course of that whole action. Was I picking up something that was going on in you with that sense of can't fail here?
You're on the money. You're on the money. We actually dive into that story in detail in the book. And we kind of scratch the surface in the film. So to kind of go back to your previous statement about how the I'll push you theme, Patrick pushing Justin, but wait a minute, Justin's pushing Patrick.
Yeah.
We were pleasantly surprised at how that title kind of turned into a double entendre. It wasn't intentional, but it kind of began to paint a picture of when we engage in a relationship effectively, we're pushing one another in different ways. At least we should be. So on the Camino itself, you talk about this pressure element. Yes, I was very driven to get this done. I'm a very driven person by nature, very type A, very control oriented, where in my life for the longest time, control equates to safety. It's a very perverted sense of safety, but that's how my brain works.
Mm-hmm.
If I can wrap my arms around it, I'm in charge of it. I can control the variables. It's safe. But what happened on the Camino is that as I went through this kind of evolution to see how that mentality in my work had started to negatively impact my family, how it had begun to put strain on my relationship between my wife and I, control suddenly wasn't quite as safe as I thought it was. And I had to let go of that idea of safety to really embrace the beauty that God wants me to experience in my relationships. And what's funny about that is, yes, I felt pressure to finish on time. I had a job to get back to.
Yeah.
All these things that were kind of at play. I got to get to the destination on time. When I actually let go of the control, invited other people in to do what I couldn't do, suddenly things were happening much more rapidly, much more effectively than when I was the one at the helm.
Yeah.
And it was very initially subtle, but all of a sudden kind of a slap in the face lesson that God threw at me. Like, look, man, your life is not meant to be lived alone on any level. Embrace the people around you, embrace the relationships that you have, and let me love you through the people around you. But I can't do it if you won't get out of the way. And that, I think, one of the biggest lessons I've learned in it, kind of from a leadership standpoint, is that sometimes the best thing we can do if we're leading, quote unquote leading, is get ourselves out of the way and let other people do the things that we can't do.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, and I'm sure it's in the book too, so people should look for that. It does come out a bit in the film too, so that's it's exciting to know that it captured that. How much do you feel like having the documentary crew with you changed your behavior? I didn't know in watching it like who they were, but I just know anytime you turn a camera on, everybody's something different happens. Was that happening in the midst of this too?
Sorry, real quick, I forgot about cameras after about probably 20 minutes in.
Really?
Yeah, same with me.
So strenuous, and you have to be so focused that I forget they're there, which is a bad thing. Because there are some things that I may have said on film that I would not have said had I thought about cameras running. But what I love about it is that they captured us in our raw stupidity or our flaws, and that they come through. And in hindsight, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. Well, were you going to say something about that, Justin?
No, I was going to say the same thing. You just forget that they're there. That was their job, was to be flies on the wall. The only way they could intervene would be if I was like in imminent death, like going off a cliff or something like that. They couldn't just film that and then watch me die.
Yeah.
So,
that's right.
But yeah, but as far as behavior, you get what you get with us on camera. So, we're not going to do some like Housewives of Beverly Hills or something where we're like nagging each other. It's all contrived. Like, no, yeah, we're stupid. We say dumb things sometimes, sure. But we also love each other deeply, and you get what you get.
So that was 4 years ago, right? It was the summer of 2014, almost 4 years ago.
14, yeah.
So 4 years ago. Anytime someone has experienced something that kind of life altering and big in the shaping of their lives, and then that phase of it is over, there can be this real letdown, right? And then all the work, obviously, of having to write the book, could do the film and all that. How did that go, getting home for you from the Camino and having accomplished it? Was there an emotional drop or a sense of missing something now and longing that you that dominated you for a while? Did you suffer any loss or depression or anything when it was over?
No, I can take mine because mine's real quick. We both have different responses, but mine, I had none of that. We hear of people going through what's called the post-Camino depression.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think one of the contributing factors is because the Camino is when you're on it, especially the length of time that we did, a month plus, it's a very simplistic way of living. You basically have three things you have to make a decision on. I mean, it's really not that hard. Like, where are you going to sleep? Where are you going to eat? And how long are you going to walk for the day? I mean, it's really that simple, and you carry everything on your back. And when you do that day in, day out for weeks on end, it becomes, I guess, the new, a norm in some ways. It's not real life necessarily the way that it is. I mean, we all have, jobs and work we got to get back to and families and whatnot. But, for us, I think for me specifically, when we came back, I was happy to see my family again, but yet, I think we were more preoccupied with, okay, what are we doing next and how's it going to look and what are we going to do here? But yet Patrick still had to work through his transition and what he had to go through. But for me, it wasn't really an issue.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say it was an issue for me either. It was more of, okay, I clearly need to make some changes. How am I going to implement those effectively with my family and it would work? And so I was so focused on engaging in a new level of intimacy and vulnerability with my friends and family. Yeah. That there were certain elements of the Camino that I wanted to invite into those elements of my life. And I just wasn't willing to not have them be a part of it. And so for some reason, I didn't go into that post-Camino depression. I didn't feel like this longing for the Camino like some people do. I wanted to bring some of that, whatever I could of the Camino, to my family, to my kids, to my wife.
Strangers.
And to strangers, exactly. And what happened, I want to add to that, is that with this new kind of appreciation for relationships and the people around us, we actually started out of this whole thing shortly after we got back, kind of a new small group, if you will, from our church, actually from several churches, where as opposed to being like a Bible study or like a life group kind of thing, it's turned into this group of 18 people that live life together, that we go on vacation together. We pursue time together. We meet without fail every Monday night. And it's kind of that Camino mentality of how can I purposefully and sometimes almost recklessly pursue raw, intimate relationships. And man, life is so much better when we do that.
Yeah, well, good for you. That's, if nothing else, that for you personally, I'm sure is the great reward to that, because that's the thing. Justin, how's your health? How you have a deteriorating disease, right? How are you?
My disease does continue to progress, and I describe it as I plateau for a while, and then I digress, and then I plateau for a while, and then I have digression points. I've been over the last couple of years, maybe since the Camino, I've been kind of in a plateau, which has been really good. A lot of minutia type things like hands, like dexterity, weakness in that. It is what it is. It still gets worse over time. But what I do is I don't really focus on that. I hardly actually ever focus on that. What I do is focus on a day-to-day basis is, what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for, the sun is shining today. I'm grateful for being able to spend time with you and to chat about kind of what we're up to, but also to have your listeners, maybe take away a nugget or two. I'm excited. I'm blessed to be able to travel around the country, and we speak to organizations all around the country, churches and trade shows, or not trade shows, but like conferences and leadership meetings and stuff. So it truly is an honor. I mean, I'm just so grateful for that. And I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. A whole lot of people don't really ask a ton on that, but yeah, I'm doing okay.
Well, it's a sign for both of you that you're willing to commit yourselves not only to do this activity together and what it's done in you, but then all the work to write a book and make a film and then go out and try to promote it. And, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of risk, right? A lot of people don't know this. If they don't write books or put their ideas out in the world, it's not an emotionally easy thing to do all the time. You're putting out a lot of energy and hoping that somebody cares, and you get a lot of negativity back sometimes from people, and no one ever does it just right. And so it just adds a whole layer of worry. And so I want to acknowledge that, because I know you guys, I'm sure, have experienced that. It opens up all kinds of other really good things too. But it's not easy being out as a public person, telling your story, telling a story of hope or of faith or talking about God. And I'm sure this is hard for you guys because I'm guessing you're both people of, Christian faith, and the movie's not really about that. There's a little snippet in there, sort of a little bit from your families, I think, where that sort of comes up. But that's another element to all of this, I would imagine, that it's hard to know how much of your faith you should say in these interviews or in the conversations about the film.
Yeah. We when we travel and speak, we get brought in for different reasons. They might want us to speak like at a church. Definitely dive into faith. At a Fortune 50 company, talking about leadership, no, that's not appropriate. However, every single time that we've had the opportunity to share any type of story, we get in conversations about faith, either doing a Q&A or afterwards. And so the film, the book, this whole journey we're on, we've really kind of embraced it as an avenue to start conversation, an avenue to engage in conversation about what is faith, what does it look like to love completely, how can that actually restore relationship? Yeah. And then we get into conversations about our understanding of love, which is Jesus, and that is beautiful. And the film was never it wasn't going to be like an altar call type of film. Right. It's how do you live it? And we tried our best to live it as opposed to preach it. And I hope that comes through in different ways. But ultimately, we want people to walk away from this film asking themselves the question of, what kind of capacity exists within my relationships if I love more fully, love more recklessly, love more completely than I am right now? And how do I do that? And you can't help but when you focus on that kind of love element, it draws you into a conversation about faith. Yeah.
Well, and the beautiful thing of the film, the story, is allowing yourselves to be cared for and loved by another person, right? I mean, that is such an important part of this. It's part of that loving oneself and loving others in that same way. That requires a lot of work for most of us, anyway. It doesn't always fall easy on all of us. So, where are you going to spend on November 2nd when the Fathom event is unleashing around the country and your faces are, on, I don't know, some number of thousands of movie screens, I'd imagine, right? Is there going to be thousands of people, thousands of screens, hundreds of screens?
I wish it was thousands of theaters or thousands of screens. It's 570 something theaters across the United States.
Oh, 500 something.
Which is a lot. Actually.
That's a lot. I don't know anything about how many movie theaters there are at all. So
yeah,
that's not a commentary on your.
But it's we will what else is funny is not only our faces, but my butt crack will be across 576 theaters across the United States as well.
Well, God bless you in that. That's something we've all longed for.
Pretty,
yeah.
Yeah. But we're going to be with our families in Boise, Idaho. That's where we live. So we're going to be at one of the theaters that's playing in our hometown, and we get to spend time with our friends and our family and our community. That the Idaho, our friends in Boise area, that community has surrounded us and been supporting has been a support network for us. I'm talking about the community, like the actual city and the town. So it's been truly humbling and an honor. But we're going to be with them and be able to spend time with our family. So we got a lot of stuff between now and then. But we're looking forward to November 2nd. We want people to come out to the theater, check it out. It's going to be a really fun night in support of the Muscular Dystrophy Association as well. So we partnered with them and, to help them continue their fight for all types of, neuromuscular diseases and helping kids and families, navigate those challenges.
Yeah.
We're raising money for them. We're helping people get involved with them, and it's going to be a really fun night.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. Say another word or two about that. What part of the Muscular Dystrophy Association is being helped? What happens? Some of the money that people pay for the movie, or are they going to have people there at the theaters? How will people engage with that group?
Yeah. There's multiple ways. One, there's going to be MDA representatives at a lot of the theaters, just engaging people in conversation, trying to raise volunteers. There's a theme with the firefighters, International Association of Firefighters. they partner with us, and so we have some awareness around what they do, what the MDA does.
Because Ted, Ted in the movie, he's a firefighter.
Oh,
so yeah.
Yeah, great.
That's the tie there.
Great.
Yeah. So the MDA looks at cures, trying to find cures, but they also provide resources for individuals, and they have the MDA camps as well. So raising awareness around what they do, also offering an avenue for fundraising to the film as well. So that's all the kind of the big picture of how we're trying to help them on all the fronts of what they're trying to accomplish with the Muscular Dystrophy Association. Yeah,
it's great. Hey, and is your book out yet? Is the book available to people?
Yeah, it came out June 6th, so it's at Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
Sorry, I didn't know about it. Yep. Haven't read it yet. But I hope a lot of people have, and I hope a lot of people will. And I have a friend in Boise, so I might send her your direction for watching the film that night. So, hey, thanks you guys. Yep. Thanks for being outward in your lives in this way. It means a lot to a lot of people. All right. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. It's worth a watch. November 2nd, again, all around the country, a one-night event. It's not a one-night event, this podcast, nor the Patreon site. All right. That's enough of that. Hey, back tonight, live with Untrumped, episode 4. If you're a follower of that series, that's going to come to you tomorrow. So maybe you listen to that one before this one. I don't know. But I did record this the same afternoon as Untrumped, episode 4. All right. Talk to you soon.